Road trips and journeys. What do they have in common? Do they have anything in common? Well, when we come back, I'll talk to you about a 10-day trip I was on. But first, here's an Welcome back. Do you have a question for a coach, for a focal point, for a question for a focal point coach? If you do, I'm one, and I have access to a couple of hundred around the globe that if you have a question, send it our way and we'd be happy to answer it. So road trips and journeys. So recently I took a trip to a couple of provinces away, and I spent about 10 days with a friend of mine, a family friend, and friends of their family. And they're actually, his wife is my eye doctor, and him and I are partners in some things. And what I like about road trips and journeys and how they tie together for me is it gives me time to think. Now, I can't write in as I'm driving, because that's not really very safe, and I wouldn't recommend it to anybody unless you, of course, have somebody who's driving for you or a note taker. That would be good. I suppose I could have used a digital recorder, but I didn't think to bring one this trip. What I like about road trips and journeys is that it does allow me to listen to Audible books or recordings, either MP3s or CDs. Yes, I still use CDs because I have a CD player in my car, and actually find that a lot easier to use than the phone at the with the MP3 on it. However you want to listen to it, it's a great way to have a capsule where you can listen to content that speaks to you, inspires you. So I was listening to one of my favorite mentors along the way, Lou Tice. I was listening to a series that he put together, a really short series actually. It's 8 segments, anywhere from 8 minutes to 12 minutes would be the longest one. What he was talking about in that was he was asking us, what do you think? So what do you think? So the journey allowed me to think about a lot of things. And one of the things I was reminded about is that we think in 3 dimensions. Kind of like that 3D printer that's out there. It prints in 3 dimensions. Well, we think in 3 dimensions. A little bit differently than that. What we are saying when we talk about thinking in 3 dimensions is, first there's a thought, then there's a picture, and there's a feeling and emotion around that. And the more we think about it, the clearer the picture gets. The clearer the picture gets, the more emotion we have. Now, be careful with this. This works for all of us. We're all using it pretty much all the time, and it works both negatively and positively. So if you're worried about something, you're thinking about something, you're creating an image about it, and you're adding some emotion to it. So if you don't want that to show up in your life, stop worrying about it. Absolutely be concerned, but what would be the opposite of what it is that's going on in your life other than the worry? So think of the positive outcome versus the negative outcome, and put all of your energies towards what you're looking forward to, not to what you don't want to show up in your life. So that was one of the things I was reminded about, is we think in 3 dimensions, and the more emotions we throw into that, the faster it shows up for us. So I encourage you to think about that for yourself in all areas of your life. What would be the best looking Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening, maybe the weekend? Start thinking about what it is you'd like to have happen in your life. versus what you don't want to have happen, and put that energy and thought energy into that, as opposed to what you don't want. What else did I pick up on the journey? Self-esteem apparently is a big piece of our success. Our self-esteem is basically how much we like ourselves. And the more we like ourselves, the more we're able to take on bigger challenges and do interesting sort of things. And people with low self-esteem won't look very far out, won't take on very many new challenges, if at all. People with high self-esteem look forward to things in a positive outcome, positive looking. I see we have Mark Gassert, who also has a live stream show that he does, actually has a couple. And he talks about road trips coming up around his son's college football team starting September. That's pretty exciting considering what we've all been through. Not to dwell on that, but he's looking forward to that. So that's fantastic. And I appreciate that. That's a really good comment too to think about, in terms of it doesn't always have to be about professional life. It's the things like Mark was talking about, his son's football team, road trips. Road trips are where things, for me anyway, whether I was coaching a hockey team, a traveling hockey team, memories are created out of that. Skills are developed from those, and you learn about yourselves on road trips. I like road trips and journeys. Capturing the moments and the successes and the lessons in those is another powerful thing. That's why self-esteem ties into this. Self-esteem is something that helps us come up with what we feel we deserve. And one of the ways to do that is to capture the wins and successes that we have along the way. One of the things I'm a big fan of is the 100 success list. Now, you don't have to do 100. I just find it's an interesting exercise. Is if you were to look at your life from the time you arrived on the planet to where you are now, and listed absolutely everything that you've gone through, you'd be surprised. Well, maybe you wouldn't be, but many of the people I've introduced this to have been very surprised at some of the things that they'd forgotten about and how they'd taken themselves for granted. Dr. Bandera of the Stanford University says, and he's a world authority on the field of self-esteem and self-efficacy. He says we go through our life's experiences too quickly and too lightly. We take ourselves for granted. So I would invite and encourage everybody listening to this, whether you're listening to it now or on the replay, to make a list of your top 100. And it doesn't stop there. Once you've got the 100, add on to it. And the reason being is this: you can go back and give yourself a pat on the back. You don't have to share this list with anybody. It's your list, and anything you want to put on there. I mean, even if you went through a horrible, like maybe you were married and got divorced and the angst of the divorce, but you came out on the other side. That's what I would encourage you to think about, is how you stood up and got longer legs for bigger strides from the things that you have lived through, and capture those. Now, why is that an important thing? Well, it's an important thing because if you do that, you're going to develop a higher level of self-esteem. You're going to like yourself better, and you're going to live life full on more often. Not to say that you're not going to have ups and downs. It's just that your downs aren't as long or as deep, and you can move beyond them and then turn that, what's the lemonade or the benefit of that experience, even though it was tragic or emotionally distraught at the time. There's something always good in it. Granted, sometimes it's hard to find it, but if you were to capture all those and put them in the list, you can go back and do something else that I would ask you to consider doing. And that is take your top 10 out of the 100 or so and continue adding to it, by the way. Big or small, recall them all because they all matter. But as you're looking at the top 10, the ones that really excite you or you're really proud of, no matter when it was. One of the ones still for me was when I was, about 12 maybe. I was appointed the captain of the Pee Wee hockey team. Well, man, did that ever feel good? Let me tell you, I still borrow that emotion when I'm going into something that's extraordinary for me to help me turn it into a new ordinary, a second nature, just like me. I was able to leverage this, what I'm sharing with you. It's called flick back, flick up. So you flick back to your past successes, borrowing those emotions and moving to the future, thinking about what it would be like. So I can say that I've actually shared the same stage as Brian Tracy and I talked to a group of focal point business coaches and ran a workshop for about 90 minutes. And people at the end of it asked me how many times I've delivered. I must have done it a lot of times. Well, on the physical plane, absolutely no, that's not true. I did it once to that group in San Diego at the Westin Hotel. In my mind's eye and rehearsing it, flicking back and borrowing from past experiences, I probably did it somewhere 100 to 200 times in my imagination. That's why the athletes and successful, high-achieving people encourage us and do it themselves, visualize ourselves of our future best. So the best way to do that, well, I shouldn't say the best way, but one of the ways to make that happen for you on an easier sort of way is to borrow from your past successes, like Dr. Bandura says to do, and borrow those emotions and put it into the new you as you see yourself growing into whatever that ideal is for you in any area of your life. You want to be a public speaker. You want to be better in the sales profession. Maybe you want to be a better parent, a better athlete, a better entrepreneur. Some area there you want to develop. Matter of fact, you can actually even, adding on to this, if there's people in the world that you admire what they do, just by watching them, you're not going to turn into them. But if they have a trait that you like there's a couple of coaches that I follow, and I really like the way they do things. And I've noticed that my persona has changed. Now, I haven't changed my own value system, but how I show up and how I present and how I communicate has become a little bit better because I've borrowed some traits and made them my own when I'm speaking to a group or on a live virtual like this. So we can borrow from the people and we can borrow from our own experiences and we can visualize and rehearse in our mind's eye. Dr. Maxwell Maltz in his book, Psychocybernetics, easy for me not to say, he talks about the theater of the mind. And he's all about self-esteem and seeing ourselves as our future best. He had 2 doctorates. He was a plastic surgeon first, and then a psychologist second. And the reason he had the second degree was because what he did as a plastic surgeon was great, but he found that many people didn't feel better about themselves, even though they had the plastic surgery done. Either the bigger nose was reduced or some scars were removed. They didn't see themselves as any different, even though the physicalness was changed. So he took up the role of learning how to be a psychologist, because what he learned is if you don't change on the inside, the change doesn't really happen. And that's what I'm encouraging all of us to do today, is to change how you're thinking. If there's an area in your life you'd like to improve upon, if you're not as happy in it as you'd like to be, if you were to give it a rating from 1 to 10 and you're 7, what would it look like if you were a 10? And what are the things you need to do or you'd admire in other people? So you can borrow from your past successes to give you the confidence and the emotional connection to move forward into that new extraordinary, turning into the ordinary. And then you can borrow from those people out there that you admire. So I could go on and talk about this for quite a bit longer, but I don't want to chew up too much of your time. I see a few other people have popped in. Let's see what they're saying to us today. What does Ron Goodwin say? He says, hello, coach, and hello, Mr. Gassert. Worrying is paying interest on a debt you might never incur. Oh, man, that's so true. So stop worrying. Worrying is creates dis-ease, and disease comes from worry quite often. And Mark agrees with me. Self-esteem is king. And it's thank you for the vote of confidence and the wisdom. I've learned it from some really interesting people. along the way. My buddy Joe Norcott's popped in and he said, great advice. He keeps a list by his desk and he adds on to it all the time. I bet he's finding that he's getting some gains and benefits out of it. Otherwise, he likely wouldn't do it. And he's getting a high five virtually from our buddy Mark. What does he say? All of us need to be kind to ourselves with positive self-talk, embrace new positive characteristics, traits, and learn from other human beings. Mark, you said you said so succinctly what it took me, 10 minutes to say. So thank you for that. That really sums up why I'm here today and what I'm talking about. I'd like to thank everybody for showing up here. If you know of somebody that would like to share their story and be a guest on the Business Renovator, have them shoot me an email or tell me about them. Shoot me an email. Let me know who they are. I'll reach out to them and have a conversation and get them set up to be part of a Business Renovator so that we can share people's stories. Because everybody has something that everybody could benefit by. I mean, look at the wisdom that showed up in here with these three young gentlemen. Wow. Fine gentlemen for sure. Absolutely. I'm going to go back to Mark's. Where did I find that? I really like this. All of us need to be kind to ourselves with positive self-talk, embrace positive characteristic traits, and learn from other human beings. And that sums it up really well. So if you're watching this on the replay, hey, let us know. Go #replay. If you're watching this live, thank you for being here, whether you commented or not. And if you know somebody would like to be on the show, or you think their message should be heard, here's a platform for them to tell their story, share their message, and help somebody they may not even know they're helping. And if you're seeing this on YouTube, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It'd be great to see who's there and get more subscribers. Then I can have a vanity. I know this is the self-serving part, the vanity URL, so it makes it easier for me to share it out to other people. Again, thanks for being here. I'm looking forward to this Friday. I have a business coach, a friend and peer of mine from the Focal Point family of coaches, and she's going to talk to us about how to get the order without even having to sell. So if you want to find out more about that from my friend Linda Brennan, see us a little bit earlier than today. We'll be at 9 a.m. Mountain, 11 a.m. Eastern this Friday with my buddy, Dr. Linda Brennan. Thanks for being here. And before I go, one thing I need to remind everybody about, whether you need to hear it or not, I'm not sure, but I need to share it. So I'm going to share this one thing. I want you all to think about you with the letter U, because, one of the things that was taught to me many decades ago was that you are wonderful. And I want you to spell wonderful with a U in it, because it helps me remind myself about me being wonderful. I want it to help you remind yourself how wonderful you are. That's what I got to say about that. I have one more new message, and it's Mark commenting on Ron. Remember what Miles Davis said: "Do not fear mistakes; there are none." Very, very good quote. On that note, I'm going to end there, and we'll see those of you who can join us on Friday to listen to Linda and I have a conversation. And if you were here today, thanks for being here. If I see a #replay, thank you for that. Remember, you are wonderful.